Hello everyone, let's go ahead and do a video on frequency tables using our software package Jamovi. Let's start off with reading our question. So it says, here's some data that your boss collected on the ages of paying customers at his ice cream shop. He asks you to summarize it. Seeing as he has not given you a bunch of direction, you decide to do some simple frequency tables. Here's the data that he collected. Okay, so let's first move our data that was given to us from MyOpenMath and get it into Jamovi. So let's go select data, and we are going to highlight the data. So if we click on the 38 and drag to the side, it will copy everything. Let me show you that again. Click kind of where 38 is, highlight across, and move to the right, and it will copy everything all the way down. So let's go ahead and copy that. Bring it over into Jamovi, into this very first cell, and paste it. So when I did this, I did not copy the labels of the different variables. I'm going to deal with that right now. So I'm going to double click on this variable A, and I'm going to rename it. So the first thing I'm going to name this is age, and we know that it's not just nominal, this is actually ordinal, and it's integer data. It's another way of saying discrete data. So that's our first one. Let's move to the second. Clicking this arrow and this arrow, shift between your columns. So now I'm on column B, or variable B, and I'm going to label this gender. I know that this is nominal and it's just a text value, so that one they got right. And let's go over to our third one now. Shifting over to C, which is satisfaction. And satisfaction is, in fact, ordinal, and it's ordinal text. And because we basically did what is called the Likert scale, and where we went from extremely dissatisfied to extremely satisfied. And we need to reorder our factor levels. You want your first factor level to be at the top of the list, and then in descending order all the way down. So I'm going to click on extremely dissatisfied, and then if I click this arrow, I can shift it all the way to the top, to extremely dissatisfied. We'll take number 2, move it just below extremely dissatisfied, and then I have neutral, satisfied, and extremely satisfied. This is very helpful in order to reorder our factor levels, especially as we're going through some of our analyses later on. Okay, so this is now ready for, and it's all put in, and we have it as the correct data types. So, first question, does data automatically get recognized as ordinal? And the answer is oftentimes no. So we always want to go in and make sure that our data types are set correctly. Next is we want to create a basic frequency table. So in order to do that, we want to go to the tab Analyses, over to Exploration, and click on Descriptives. Now, as we click on the descriptives, we actually are going to be given a host of options that we are able to do. So Jamovi gives us plots that we can possibly do. Jamovi gives us a bunch of statistics that we can do, and we're actually going to remove a bunch of these statistics. We aren't going to need them right now. We will use these extensively later on. So what we do want is just a frequency table, simple frequency table, and then what we can do is we can move over all of these variables from our data into the variables for our descriptives, and they get put into this kind of result page right over here. Okay, so when we create a basic frequency table, we want to go to Analyses, Exploration, and then Descriptives. Okay, when we are dealing with frequency tables, oftentimes numerical data gets put into bins. Now, Jamovi in and of itself doesn't give us any options for the bin sizes that we want to do. But Jamovi is very handy because it is built upon the platform R, and R is a very powerful statistical package. And I can show us how we can do this in R, and we can actually program that right inside of Jamovi. But that will be an additional video for later on, only if you want to learn that. And we are going to actually just use the base of what Jamovi has in order to help us out. But when we see bins like this, we know that these are called bins, they're called classes, and sometimes they're called ranges. And so if you hear some of those things dealing with frequency tables, you'll know what's happening when they say that this is the range from 5 to 10. And if you notice in this, we also are using some different things, square brackets and parentheses. And they actually mean something. So remember, a square bracket means a closed interval down to D, where we actually include that number. And a parenthesis is an open, not a closed interval. This is a included value. Sorry, let's use C. Included value. and a parenthesis is an excluded value. So here we would include 5, but exclude 10 from the bin range that we are interested in. So if we have double open, that means that we are in an open interval. That's B. If we have double closed, that means we're in a closed interval. D. If we have closed and a parenthesis, that means a closed lower, open upper. E. And this guy, we want to have an open lower, the left-hand one is a parenthesis, and a closed upper, which is the square bracket. So that one is going to be F. Okay, so remember as we did this too, we worked with our data types. So nominal data, remember, is categorical data with no natural order. That's C. Ordinal is categorical with a natural order. That's A. And numbers are our numerical data. So finally, in this purpose section, why do we create frequency tables? Well, it's to find patterns and to simply summarize our data. So all of those are valid reasons. So finally, we can actually go through and interpret some of our frequency tables. So now we can actually look at these. One thing that we're going to do is we are actually going to copy our tables and paste them into Excel so that we can easily grab the values and do calculations from them. So I'm going to go to the group and I'm just going to copy the group. And when I copy the group, I copied all of these tables. And now let's open up Excel. And I will just do a right click and I will paste it in here and give it a second. It's got a little bit to go. And so here we have the frequencies of the age, the frequencies of gender, and the frequencies of satisfaction. And now we can answer our question. So the first one, how many of the customers had an age in the range of 30 closed to 40 open? So let's highlight what we're actually interested in. So we want 30, and we're going to highlight all the way to 39 because we are not including 40 because it is open. So I'm just going to highlight this real quick just so that we can easily see what we're working with. Now, if you want, you could take out a calculator at this point and type in all of these numbers and add them together and get your value. That would work. We can also use some tools that Excel has for us. We could just say equals sum, a little parenthesis, and highlight the data that we're interested in, close the parenthesis and it equals, and that will sum all of those values. Or if we just want to add all the values together, we can do that too. We can say equals 3 plus 6 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 7 plus 16 plus 15 plus 19 plus 9, and it should give us the same number. And if we double check our answer right here, lo and behold, we get 90. Okay, next we have what percent of customers identified as male. So now we need to go to a new one, and we're looking at the male percentage. And if we look at this, it gives us a 43% of customers identified as male. Now, in how we report our answers here, I am looking for them to be reported in decimal form. So 0.43 or 43%. Line number 3, how many of the customers had a neutral or worse experience? Okay, so we've got neutral here, and worse is going to be going up higher. So let's highlight those values real quick. Highlighting those 3. And once again, we can either add them in your calculator, add them in Excel, or just do a simple sum. Adding those together provides the answer of 134 customers had a neutral or worse experience. Okay, last question. How many of the customers had an age of at least 40? So if we go back up here, now we're looking at a different question. It's 40 or more. So if we click on 40 and we highlight everything above, that would be considered our 40 or greater. And let's just make this some color. And we'll hit equals sum. Highlight our values. And hit enter. And we get 103. And so there we go. This is how we can simply use Jamovi in order to help us create our frequency tables so we can get some basic summary information from them. Good luck using Jamovi in creating your frequency tables.